talking about the study that we just went over with Leah.
Yes. So we're welcoming Vince Redmond back to the show. Vince, who we adore. Vince is a licensed marriage and family therapist, Vince Redmond. But he also was a behavioral therapist for many, many years. He's worked with a wide variety of individuals from young kiddos. You've seen him. He's featured in the film Recovered. Is it The Journey Back Through Autism, or there's a subtitle for it?
Journey Through Autism and Back.
Beyond,
The Journey Through Autism and Back. There we go. I had some of the words right, but not in the right order. But he's featured as a very young therapist in that film. And then you get to see him working with a young woman over the years. It's really fun. If you watch the show, well, of course, you know, if you're at all watching the show, I encourage you to watch Recovered, but to see Vince in it is a special treat, because you go, oh my goodness, there's Vince. What were you, 19 in the earliest part of it, Vince?
It seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, you were young in, and then to get to see you interact with that particular client when she's a teenager, it's very moving. Let me tell you, it's a five-hanky affair. But always a thrill to have Vince here with us. He is now the director of the Family Services Department at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And Vince is the person that we all run to. Whether it's, you know, whatever it is, we all run to Vince because he's got big shoulders that we all run to, and we send our families to them. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you, thank you. Well, welcome back, Nancy. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Vince. Good to see you.
Hail, hail, the gang's all here, right? So
the gang's back together. Let's play.
That's right. And so one of the things that we were thinking of talking about with Vince today is disappointment.
You've gotten a lot of feedback this week from parents who are dealing with disappointment, right?
We've had a lot of parents writing in to us and saying, you know, the one mom who wrote in and said, you know, that the child had just been diagnosed and that dad is just refusing to accept the diagnosis. He's disappointed in the diagnosis. I think we can all relate to that. Right. But mom's disappointed in dad because he can't get it together and get on the same page with her. And I think a lot of spouses, because a lot of times it's the mom saying that to the dad, but sometimes it's the reverse. Sometimes the dad's is having to say to the mom, hey, I know you're having feelings about this, but we got to move in a direction. We got work to do. There's work, yes. So maybe, but then we've had other people writing in about disappointment because their kids are in that transitional age, like 11 to 12, and they're seeing that the other kids, maybe the other kids at the center or the other kids at school are shooting ahead and their kid isn't. And there's a lot of disappointment about that and a lot of self-reflection. One mom who said to me, I just don't know what I did wrong. And that broke my heart, Vince. So where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with that one. I mean, I think the first thing that we want to discuss with any parent is you've never done anything wrong. You know, that has to do with when you're engaged in treatment and you're engaged in, you know, medical appointments and doing everything you can for your child, you know, to make sure that they have the platform to be able to progress. That's what we're doing. That's what you're meant to do. That's the platform, the foundation to, you know, to progress. Now, as we know, there's no guarantee where that progress is going to land. Is it going to land real high, real low? But the progress, right? And this is why we set individual goals for each individual child, each individual family, and work with those dynamics to get the best results we can for each individual, you know, patient or each individual child. But when it comes to feeling that there's something that we did wrong, that's sometimes just our interpersonal feeling that we need to do more. We need to do, you know, it's because the progress isn't where we thought it might be. It's because I'm doing something wrong, and that's not the case. A lot of times it's, you know, different factors, different variables. I mean, we could sit here for days and have a whole show just on the amount of variables that get played into children's progress. But rarely is it that anyone was doing anything wrong. And I think it's something we want to, you know, talk about. Talk to, you know, I'm very big on don't hold that in. Don't hold that fear or that feeling in. Talk to someone about it. Either talk to a staff or a spouse or loved one about it. Maybe set some time aside to talk to your supervisor about it. Or if you feel it's that overwhelming, definitely set up a time to talk with a mental health specialist about it so that you feel better about the efforts and the engagement and all the progress that you have made, and not so fearful that you did something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't you think comparison is just a natural thing that parents do?
Yeah. And that's in all of us, right? It's all of us. Anytime our child fails at something or doesn't succeed at something, we feel like we didn't do enough, or we might have missed something, or maybe we should have given a little bit more effort here or there, or what have you. But that's just us as parents, just heart and soul, mind and body, want our children to be successful with everything they do.
There's one mom that I know that publicly refers to this phenomenon of kids getting better. She says, there are families who win the autism lottery.
Right.
That they do all the right things and they win the autism lottery and their kid is fine. And, and as much as I think we are all thrilled that that is the circumstance for more and more kids, it does make it harder for the families who don't win the autism lottery, but who put in all the work, who did all the time, but for whatever reasons did not get that same amount of progress, which, everybody continues to do research on why that is.
Right.
And I think we find more and more that there are contributing factors to it. But it's still very hard to be the person who didn't win the lottery.
Right.
And we get more and more parents, and I think as insurance covers older kids, we get more and more parents that go, it used to be that we still get the parents who go, I missed the boat. You started your kid at 3 and my kid is 15, has never had ABA. Right. And telling them to forgive themselves because they didn't have access to it, didn't know about it, whatever.
Right.
Like we all have to be forgiving of, the water but it's hard.
Right. It's very hard.
It's hard when it's your kid's progress.
Right. I mean, I know I beat myself up for not getting Wyatt into ABA earlier. That was a constant thing.
But you did everything under the sun.
We did. And when I look back, I have to say, we did everything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, but those feelings though, Vince, are really hard to deal with. And I love that you're saying to people, find somebody to talk about it, even if it's a professional to talk about it, because you got to have some place to go with those feelings, right?
You can't hold them. And what Nancy just said, I thought was great, is look back. Evaluate the progress, evaluate the good, evaluate the successes, evaluate everything that has changed for the positive along this journey, right? Going back to our journey through autism, because that is reinforcing. That is something that we need to always remember, right? And this is one of sometimes the negative byproduct of ABA treatment, right? We go to the meetings, every session's about increasing a deficit, or decreasing an excessive behavior, and we're focusing on all the gaps, we're focusing on all the excesses. We have to make sure that's balanced with also all the stuff that we've already accomplished, already maintenance, already mastered, already we're successful with. And if the parents, if any parent is feeling overwhelmed and not feeling that, then we as the professionals need to do more of that. We need to do more of reflecting back on the successes just as much as the needs that are still to come.
But it is key for the parent to voice that feeling, so that they can get the help and support that they need. So now, Vince, switching back to the other one, talking about when somebody's newly diagnosed and the disappointment that they feel, and that one case of the mom saying, Dad is just like, no, that's not what's happening. So Dad's disappointed, Mom's extra disappointed in Dad that he's not handling it. He's not handling it the way she feels that it needs to be handled. And that's really typical, isn't it? Sure. Were you and Reed on the same page, like right out the jump? Or
pretty much,
really?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's remarkable.
Right.
Jim was like, he's fine. I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, no, I don't think he is. And even on the day that he was diagnosed, I think I think it took Jim a good 6 months before he was like, okay, now I understand what you're talking about and what we're facing. But we were 6 months in.
Uh-huh.
And I would love to say that I was kind and gentle and nice with my husband. That would be a lot. Let us be honest about that, right? I love when Holly Robinson Pete said that she said to Rodney, you better get on Autism Avenue with me or you're going to be on some other avenue without us.
me, right.
And I was like, oh, I can relate to that. Anyway, Vince, what do you want to say to these parents?
That this is the natural
Oh,
process.
we don't have Vince. Vince, we don't have your sound.
I'm still here. Hello?
Traven, are we having an issue? Do I need to call him? We were all poised, right?
Now we've got him back. I
We
think.
do? We got Vince?
Vince?
Hello? Hello?
Oh, we just got him on your mic, Traven. We are going to take a break while we figure this out because we want you guys to hear Vince's words of wisdom. Stick with us.
We're back.
We're back, and we now have Vince.
Vince.
We have sound. So we were asking what Vince would say to these parents with a newly diagnosed dad. Doesn't, he's in denial,
Yeah,
and
he's falling behind.
Mom's disappointed that her child has, an autism diagnosis, but she's more disappointed that dad is in denial.
Right. So you have advice for that couple, Vince? What would you say to this couple?
They're grieving, right? I think you both would agree. They're grieving, and that's one of the first stages of grief is denial. So it's appropriate. It's not anything that the father's doing inappropriate or the mother's doing inappropriately. This is a normal stage of grieving. You're in denial that your child has a disability. So like we would do with any other death or any other a loss where grief takes over our presence, we need to give them time to process. We need to give them a little bit of education, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of information, but not too much. If we overflow it, then it's going to be a complete shutdown. And I think we've seen that with a lot of families. So what we want to do is we want to talk to the individual. We want to talk with whichever parent it is and talk to them about what are their expectations? What are they seeing? What is it that they see? What are their fears? What are their anxieties? And really work with that until we get to a stage of acceptance. I think it's very critical, though, that we don't overwhelm in the beginning and really work with them in a very empathetic, and systematic way. Because just like any of us, we grieve in different ways, right? There's 5 steps of grief, but they don't always go linear and always go in the same order. Sometimes we start with denial. Sometimes we start with anger. Sometimes we start with the depression. It can vary in various stages. So getting that relationship, having that relationship with the parent, sitting down and getting their point of view, really understanding the grief, the fear, the expectations that they're feeling, that will get us a lot further than if we just flood the families with information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
It
makes
totally
sense.
does.
Yeah.
I think I'm guilty of that sometimes. That
Guilty of what? Yeah.
Overflowing a new parent and saying, here are all the things you got to do, and then they're like,
Yeah.
And I love, saying that it's appropriate for this dad to feel this way. And I think that those of us, if you're the partner in the relationship that's like, I can't stand to be in grief or fear because I become paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thing that I've learned how to cope for me is to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother always would say, do something even if it's wrong.
Right.
Right? That was her motto. And so I'm like, I'm feeling this way. I need to do something. And so I struggle with when people are feeling a way and not do. I'm like, well, just get up and do something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a pain in the butt about that. And so, but allowing the other person to have their process and not putting a stamp on it going, you're wrong, you're not moving fast enough, you're being, a lot of times that person can be labeled as weak because they're in denial. But I love you saying, Vince, that it's normal, everybody's going to go through it, and to let them have some room to feel what they're feeling. I love that.
Yeah, have some patience.
Push. Because the one thing that's going to happen is if we push too hard, they're going to shut down.
Yeah.
And now we've lost them.
Yeah.
And now there's no buy-in. We just solidified that they're going to stand behind their decision, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Right.
Yeah. And
Right or wrong, right? And that's not where we want to put any parent. We don't want that pressure or anxiety on them too. The quicker we can normalize that the way you're feeling right now is okay. There's nothing wrong with it.
I think everybody needs
let's
to
talk
hear that.
about it.
Yeah.
What are some of your concerns? Is there any questions? What do you fear? Is there anything you would like to know about the treatment? How can we help you? As we always said, our I can speak for us. Our treatment's a full family model. It's not just about the child or the patient, right? We work with the family. We talk about their dynamics, their interactions, their strengths, weaknesses, reinforcements, and so forth.
Right.
And I think when we approach it that way, that we're here to care for all of you, there's a sense of relief with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Vince, give us a quick 1-minute explanation about the Family Services Department and how people can interact if they want to.
Sure. Basically, with the Family Services Department here at CARD is we're here to support the family with any questions or concerns that they might have, any supports that they might need, resources they might want to get a hold of, either inside our company, outside the company, and also connecting them with the right resources that might help them right in the moment, or maybe down the future, like you were saying, transitional periods, conservatorships, things that might be coming up. So if they have any questions, grievances, compliments, or things that they would like to talk about, they can reach me at v.redmond, REDMOND, at centerforautism.com.
Yeah.
You're a gift to
great,
us, Vince.
Vince.
We
Thank
so
you. And we
appreciate
encourage
you.
everybody, if they have some feelings they want to talk about and get support, to contact Vince. He's a great
There
resource.
you go. Thank you so much,
Okay, thank you, Vince.
See
Thanks,
you next
ladies.
month.
Talk
Bye-bye.
to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.